Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories you'd hear can be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com and additional programs at IndianCountryTV.com. Here's the latest news from the day from the Associated Press and other Native American news sources. A Fort Taunton, North Dakota woman has been charged with voluntary manslaughter in the stabbing death of her boyfriend. Authorities say 49-year-old Rebecca Brown is accused of stabbing Derek Longy in the chest on January 27th. Authorities said Brown killed Longy in a home where they had been living with friends on the Spirit Lake reservation. A 2-week-old baby passed away in Mesa, Arizona last week, apparently after being bitten and attacked by the family's dog. Mesa Police Detective Steve Berry says police were called by a woman who said her daughter had been bitten by a family dog in her home. Berry said officers found the infant in the living room with obvious bite wounds to the head and that the baby was unresponsive when paramedics arrived. Berry says the mother had placed the baby in a low-lying bissonette or crib and that she discovered the attack when she returned a few moments later. The names of the parents and baby were not immediately released by authorities. However, Berry said the father is a Mesa police officer who was at work at the time, while the mother is a police officer for the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. Last Thursday, the Maricopa County Animal Control euthanized the dog, which was of a chow mix. A Rose Valley, Saskatchewan father who left his 2 toddler daughters in a blizzard wearing only diapers and t-shirts was sentenced to 3 years in prison last week. The sentencing came 4 months after Christopher Pache pleaded guilty to a single count of criminal negligence for causing the girls' death. He lost the 1- and 3-year-olds while walking to a neighbor's house during a storm January 29th in 2008 with the wind chill hovering at 58 degrees below zero. Pache's family said he was drunk at the time. Pache was suffering severe frostbite when he eventually made it to the neighbor's home and was taken to the hospital. 8 hours later, when he was able to speak, he asked about his children, setting off a frantic search that ended hours later when the girls were found in a field. The Yurok tribe is considering reintroducing endangered California condors into the lower Klamath River Basin, a move that could bring back a bird not seen in Oregon in more than a century. The tribe, based in Klamath, California, began a 2-day summit last Friday with state and federal officials as well as condor experts to talk about the chances of returning the world's largest bird to southern Oregon. The Mail Tribune of Medford says that so far, condor populations have been reestablished only in Arizona, Southern California, and Mexico. The Klamath River Basin would be the most northerly site for the massive birds. Sean St. Michael, who heads the condor breeding program at the Oregon Zoo in Portland, says chances are good, but much planning is still needed. A decade-long project to remove the derogatory word squaw from the names of 76 streams, buttes, and mountains across Montana has been completed. Most of the name changes are official, although a few are still winding their way through the process. More than 150 people gathered last Thursday in the Capitol Rotunda for the Old Places, New Names ceremony. We celebrate 76 old places and 76 new names, Jennifer Perez Cole, the governor's Indian Affairs coordinator, said. This derogatory word was a word used by white men to describe Indian women, Perez Cole said. We sent a message in 1999 that it was unacceptable. Cole said Montana was the second state to undertake the name change effort after Minnesota. Scientists know what two dams did nearly a century ago to the LOL River's legendary salmon runs in the state of Washington. Now they get a historic chance to find out what they still don't know. Given a dam-free path, will a river ecosystem agree to march backward in time? Come 2012, they'll find out. In a project whose scope and size hasn't been contemplated before in the United States, experts will remove the 100-foot Elloa Dam and the 210-foot Glines Canyon Dam on the Elloa River in Washington's Olympic Peninsula in an extraordinary experiment to restore a river from mountain to sea. Jerry Freilich, research coordinator for the Olympic National Park, said the answers, whatever they may be, will provide scientists with a wealth of new information. How quickly will salmon return to the 45-mile river after decades from being away? How will their return alter the habitat of everything from shrews to black bears? And how will the release of sediment trapped behind the dams, enough to fill 6 football stadiums, reshape the spawning beds? It may be 30 years before the full extent of the recovery is known. The Elloa produced about 390,000 salmon and sea-run trout in 1910, including coho, pink, sockeye, and chinook salmon and steelhead. By the year 2005, the number of wild native sea-run fish was only about 3,000. Jim Bolstron from the lower Elloa Kalalam tribe that led the fight to tear down the dams remembers seeing plenty of chinook as a kid and hearing tales of 100-pound fish. Built in the 1900s, the concrete dams provided hydroelectric power for a local paper mill and a growing community. But the dams didn't include fish passages, so migrating salmon and trout were confined to the lower 5 miles of the river. After Congress passed the Elloa Act in 1992, the Department of Interior concluded that tearing down the dams was the only way to fully restore the river and its native salmon runs. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank our underwriters for helping with this broadcast. Stop in again for the next edition right here.